Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing 3 French films from the Criterion Collection you should see. I had another video where I talked about 5 French films. I thought I'd add 3 more. Some things I was looking into recently that I really enjoyed. And one of the films that captured me early on in my movie watching days, I was actually in 9th grade or 10th grade, one of those, and I had this French teacher who showed us the black and white 40s version of Beauty and the Beast. And at the time, I remember certain images. I remember this image of this archer in a garden and how beautifully dark it felt. And it was a little silly to me at the time. But I really kind of found myself liking it. And many years later, when I was first exploring the Criterion Collection, this is one of the films that just immediately grabbed me. Roger Ebert called it one of the most magical of all films. And I was trying to go back recently and figure out why those images had stuck with me so long. I was reading about it. I was looking at shots of the film again. And I didn't know this, but Henry Elkin, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly, or Henry Elkin. So he worked on another film called Wings of Desire. Wim Wenders directing. And if you're unfamiliar with Wings of Desire, it's a beautiful film from one of our most humanist, empathetic directors, in which angels are looking down on humans and helping them and living amongst them, and an angel falls in love with someone. And it's a truly touching, magical film. And I don't know if that is part of why it was sold so well. I mean, Ebert said that this cameraman helped with 2 parts that I think do blend well in the film. The outdoor realism is what the way Ebert put it, or almost like a forbidding forest at times that matches some of the way the characters act toward our heroine, right? But then also the indoor fantasy, the candles that are being held by hands, the creepy moving faces that kind of look like The Haunting or something. The animal itself, the beast, this thing apparently took hours and hours of makeup. I've heard 5 hours to get all the stuff ready and like all the claws on and the teeth of the creature really has always impressed me. When I think about the Beauty of the Beast that many of us are used to, the beautiful Disney film with Belle and then the Beast, that's all the wonderful Menke music that goes along with that. That beast is so much more imposing. This beast in the French version, I've always felt like that beast was some animal pulled up out of the mud. That could have been anywhere, like some stray dog or something, some helm, it's not that much of a beast, yet the beast is dressed so elegantly and is so miserable. It creates a very unique kind of fairy tale. And I don't think anything quite like it has been created, because it is enchanting and it is gloomy at times and oddly hopeful. And some of the true scares don't even come from the beast. They come from this, this castle that just takes you through the echoes of some hellish eternity. And it's still pretty. It's a nice black and white film. You should see it. I really want to go through the whole thing frame by frame again. You all, I did want to ask if somebody wants to leave a comment. I have the version in the All That Haunts Be Ours Volume 2, and I'm kind of wanting to go through that, or if you have another version you want to recommend, let me know. But I've always been drawn to that one, and I wanted to talk about it because I've never mentioned it on my channel. Now, another film I watched recently that I did not think that I was going to love this as much as I did, much like when I watched Breathless. I didn't know how much I would love Breathless. Godard's Contempt, Jean-Luc Godard's Contempt, I think is truly one of his great works. And I'd heard that. I didn't know. it's just a stunning, well-told story with great acting, great shots, everything about it works. It was an easy 5-star for me. And I had not, I had never bought it. I just streamed it one day, and if anything, now I really want a physical copy because a few times the stream lagged, and now I'm like, gosh, physical media is better. But so get this, if you don't know about this movie, because I didn't know this, Fritz Lang, okay, the great director who's directed many great films. I've talked about some of them on this channel. I think most recently I talked about M, okay, with Peter Lorre. He plays himself. The director plays himself as an older man, and he's working on this telling of the Odyssey. And next to the water and the waves and so forth, it very much feels like those parts of the Odyssey. And in the process of this, there is a producer, an American producer involved in the production, who's played by none other than Jack Palance, who feels like he's just, of all the people you could throw into some French New Wave, that guy, right? The bad guy in Shane. And I think he's the guy that did the one-handed push-up at the Oscars. Like how much more perfect could that casting have been? So he's there, and he kind of hits on Brigitte Bardot, who's Michael Pololi's the writer who's supposed to help fix the script of the Odyssey, but then he's clashing with his wife, and then you've got this producer who kind of puts the moves on Brigitte Bardot, and it's funny because when I was watching the film, there are these scenes where she's depicted almost like cartoonishly, like a some kind of goddess, like this Greek goddess who's just on the bed, sort of motioning almost in unreal artistic ways. Or I don't know exactly how to put it, but then in other scenes, she's just like some girl in the bathtub. She puts on a fake wig. She's inauthentic. The whole thing almost seems like a spoof or something of the idea of the Odyssey. I mean, if if the main character, the writer, is supposed to be Odysseus, it's clearly poking some fun at the idea. The whole film is, and Jack Palance, like I said, is just so he's so full of himself, and he drives a ridiculous sports car, and you see all of these like American films. I think there's a big John Wayne poster on one of them. It kind of pokes around the edges of some parts of the really macho pieces of the plot of the Odyssey. And additionally, the soundtrack is absolutely gorgeous. Like, in the cinematography, like when we get a break from all the matter of fact, blunt chatter of the characters, and we get to see and experience the world that we're in. It's a stunning picture. Scorsese really liked it, and I just think it's really good. Also has one of those long extended scenes indoors that might remind you a little bit of Breathless, if you like that movie. So I love Contempt. There are several versions out there, but definitely got to see it. And I could not. It's been a little while since I've talked about Chantal Akerman, so I did want to mention her again. The 2022, I think it was, Sight and Sound poll, Jeanne Diamond won the number one from that list. All lists are subjective, right? You can put a lot of films as number one. My favorite film is Once Upon a Time in the West. Has been for a long time. Some people would say The Godfather's number one. You could take all these different great films and rank them, but this particular one did really well in that Sight and Sound poll. And I do think it's one of the great films ever made. I mean, it's truly a fantastic piece of work. I'd heard about it for a long time, and until I got the Criterion set, I really didn't understand how great of a director Chantal Akerman was. If you have not heard of this film, I think it's over 3 hours. It's a long one. A single mom is a part-time prostitute, and what she'll do is she'll have men come into the apartment. She'll have a client leave before her son comes back, and other than that, she's just doing this mundane housework. And it's not a particularly provocative film most of the time. I mean, it's very much interested in the day-to-day troubles a woman in that situation would experience. And her son, gosh, it's so useless. And I think that's part of what makes the film daring and challenging, is that the son does not appear to actually provide any benefit to the protagonist. And on top of that, there's a flashing light that is used cleverly throughout the film. Good payoff there. This woman, her routine is kind of shaken, you know. And the film goes to great lengths. I mean, this is slow cinema at its slowest. I mean, maybe not Satan Tango Bela Tar, but it's pretty slow. And it goes to these great lengths to establish those routines. And when it's broken, when those routines are gone, or they start cracking a little bit, we are so used to the cadence or the rhythm that it throws us off. And we start to feel some of her, being off kilter. Feng shui is gone, so to speak. And the way that whole thing unravels, I still don't know how Ackerman pulled it off. I never know how she does what she does with her pictures. I often talk about News from Home and how simple that film is, and just the images and her reading these letters, and yet I feel such a sense of loss watching the film. And in this movie, and in many other Ackermans, as a Western fan, I find so much to relate to. Because part of what I love about the Western genre that is seemingly completely different from Ackerman's work is a sense of loneliness and isolation. Isolation, moreover. You know, there's a scene in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance when Tom Donovan is completely on his own and there's a fire. And that look in his eyes, there's a look just like in Un Gendarme that I have never forgotten. And I love it. I love the director so much. And so I wanted to pick 3 films here that were the kind of 5-star works that stick with you, that mean something to you as a film fan. So I hadn't talked about 2 of those ever, and one of those I just always like to talk about when I can. So those were 3 French films I thought, maybe you could add to your list of stuff to pick up in a Criterion sale, or even if you didn't get the Criterion version, some version of it, or at least stream it or see it. If you like the content there, go ahead and please click the like button. But I would like to, that will grow the channel, but I would like to know what are some other French films you like that I haven't mentioned, or maybe another one I have mentioned on the channel. Sometimes it's really cool to hear from you all. You'll give me a film I've never heard of, and it's just on my watch list. It's very fun. That's part of what is such a joy about being a YouTuber discussing movies. So let me know in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.